What's up, everybody? Just wanted to make a quick video on the topic of debating or arguing or interacting on the JQ or with anti-Semites. I did one on this particular debate, which I mentioned was, I think ultimately it was disappointing as a debate because it ended up being a discussion. I ran out of I ran out of talking points because it's hard to know what to talk about for hours, especially when it was my first real actual debate, so that's difficult. And the guy I was talking to, like, he didn't make a case, like, to be real. So if you don't have anything to say, you can always refute what the other person's saying, but that's hard when they're not really saying anything, right? I was like, come on, like, it's like I was coaching him, like, hey, bro, you're supposed to be making your case. So, like, why aren't you doing that? So that's why I made it more conversational, which is fine. It just doesn't make for a good debate. So I'm saying ultimately, I don't think it's worthless to listen to. I just think it failed as a debate, in debate terms. So, well, I'll just say my general thoughts. There's definitely downsides to giving these people attention, especially on mainstream platforms. Giving them additional attention, additional following, etc., etc. In this case, it's on a non-mainstream network that's on Odyssey, so the whole audience was basically supporting my opponent, which is actually a good thing, because those are the people that you could possibly sway, although it's quite difficult. And he's not preaching to people he could possibly convert, because they're kind of like mostly on his side anyway. So if you're going to do a debate, I think those circumstances are ideal. A lot of people think debating is the end all be all to arrive at the ultimate truth. I definitely don't think that. I think it's a tool that can potentially be used for positive, but in these circles with these people, it's pretty difficult to reach them and sway them, because ultimately they're unreasonable. That's why they came to the conclusions that they did already. So they tend to look at it as, like, if you went to a bare knuckles boxing match and you just root for the other, like, your guy. That's basically how they look at it. So they'll just cheer their points. They'll pathologize everything you do or say. Like, it's pretty funny, honestly, the way they do that. Like, if you're nice, they'll pathologize that like it's some underhanded ploy to trick them. If you're mean, obviously they'll say, like, oh, look, he's lashing out. Look at his hatred. He's seething. It's pretty funny, honestly. I find it entertaining. But ultimately, I think it's valuable, because you learn about these people and how they think when you're actually engaging them in a debate such as this. And even though this guy, like, he's a very ardent, dedicated National Socialist who is capable of making arguments, but I was actually very surprised that he basically didn't make any arguments. Like, all I remembered him doing is name dropping a bunch of Jews in various positions, like central bankers, communists, blah, blah, blah. And then making the claim that, oh, you've been hated for 6,000, 4,000 years. So, like, therefore that proves that Jews are toxic. That pathologizes Jews, which, like, to me, that does nothing of the sort. That would be like listing all the other people that Europeans have oppressed and killed and done horrible things to. Like, to me, that doesn't follow at all that there's something wrong with them and not the Europeans. Like, this is a total inversion of reality, as most people would see it, right? Like, but anyway, it's surprising how weak the arguments are. how nonsensical they are. But ultimately, that doesn't win you the case because you're trying to reach these people, which is extremely difficult to do. So I think you really have to display in a limited amount of time just how ridiculous the belief system is. So I did that to some degree, but like I'm too nice and I let up, and that's when I started talking to him, like trying to have a constructive conversation, which is stupid in a debate because that's not what you're there for. Like maybe to a little bit of a degree, just to make it more entertaining and engaging and conversational. But like you're in a debate to make your case. Like yeah, it is acting in a way because you're playing a role, but have a debate to have a debate, have a discussion to have a discussion. Keep the two separate. But I don't think it's some magical panacea, but it is worth doing if you want to put in the time, get an experience and learn from it. I learned from this one. What did I learn? The things I told you about debating, just how limited and stupid and nonsensical the arguments of anti-Semites are. Well, some of them are very well prepared because they have their talking points ready, like talking points on communism, talking points on whatever other events they're going to try to like name drop Jews for, like Armenian genocide. It's almost limitless what's out there. So you can have those things ready. Actually, we do have a pamphlet, like a document going around that details all they mention, so you can debunk them. The actual data, because this is the point I made, right? Like if the JQ is really real, why are there so many lies and fabrications that get repeated again and again and again and are never fucking corrected? Because it's not a truthful movement. Like you just throw whatever you can at the wall to see what sticks. And they're experts at inverting. So you call them liars and they'll bring up like, well, you guys are the ultimate liars. Look at all the debunked Holocaust stories that survivors were caught lying about, or whatever bullshit they come up with. Or not just them, but like they'll bring up some other, like, Jews are the ultimate liars. They infiltrated academia and changed our whole culture with lies, or they fucking invert everything. Like, it's impressive how good they are at that. That's what they're good at. They're not good at they're good at bullshitting and inverting, which is and projection. So basically all the things they accuse us of doing, of lying, of what else do they accuse us for? Like a lot of fucking things. Of lying, of lashing out, of what's that quote? Crying as they strike you. Like they do all of these things. It's hilarious. Like Hitler with the big lie, who said it's the Jews that do the big lie, and then the big lie ultimately came to refer to his blood libel against German Jewry for their defeat in World War I. So arguing with an anti-Semite is like arguing with a competent anti-Semite or a JQer is like arguing with your own fucking shadow. It's, the yin-yang symbol? It's like, it's a perfect inversion of yourself that opposes you. Except instead of being in balance, it's your adversary. So like whatever you say, they'll invert and use it against you, like the ultimate manipulator. So if they'll try to this is what anti-Semites do ultimately, or like the Third Reich, they'll strike out against you, antagonize people, whether with the signs or on Twitter or anything. And then when there's any kind of response, like, oh, we're being attacked. And they're so good at it and it's so effective. So that's what they do. They instigate, they prod, trying to get a response, and then when they get any kind of response, oh, we're being attacked! We're being attacked by the Jews! This is what they did in Nazi Germany, right? Like with, there was a boycott against Germany based on the treatment of the Jews. And they said, like, the Jews are at war with us. Even though they did make that headline, Judea declares war, figurative war, economic boycott. It was a disorganized, I'm not going to say it was powerless or it was toothless, because it was somewhat effective, I think. But it was portrayed like this act of war of all the Jews against us, which then escalated to the negative impact of Jews in Germany and elsewhere, but also to the Germans, because they escalated this war that they ultimately lost. But anyway, my point is, they're trying to escalate a conflict. So, although it's very tempting to take the bait, you don't want to escalate that conflict. So, like, in the debate, I don't think I ever insulted the guy. I laughed at his ideas. I said, like, come on, this is fucking stupid, right? Like, I went over their logic and I said, like, so, I mean, yeah, you're just naming this Jewish guy and claiming this is due to the Jews, but there's like 8 times as many non-Jews. Like, come on, dude. They're like, can't you see how dumb this is? Like, you're gonna sit here and tell me this isn't dumb? Like, I don't think I ever insulted the guy. I criticized his ideology. I think it's a good thing to do. You can be more aggressive than I was. I think in a debate you should be. But you can't underestimate the value of a connection. And even when you're arguing with somebody, it requires a certain amount of, you're still cooperating. Like, you're obeying rules. It's a little bit like a dance. It might be like jousting, like boxing, but it is sort of a dance. So if you just try to come out and totally pummel somebody who thinks that he's a victim, it's just going to reinforce that victim narrative. So, not that you need to keel over and cluck to these people. That shouldn't be done either. But you should attack the ideas. You should try to look as good as possible doing it. Like, attack the ideas and try to give the impression that, like, you care about the well-being of the people that believe these ideas, which is the reality, because otherwise you wouldn't be trying to negate these ideas. You would just let people believe it and not give a shit, although it does negatively impact others. So I think debate is a tool. I don't think it's the most effective. I don't think it's the least effective, but if done in the right way, can be a positive and can be a positive experience to those who do it. Let me think of, like, we had a document going around that basically talks about JQ arguments and refutes them, shows how they're fake and lies. So if you go over that, you can be pretty well versed for a JQ debate, and also just good for your general knowledge. But generally, just learning the way they think and how they make arguments, and how they're faulty arguments and how they make no sense. Once you do that, you can engage with even the best of these people, I think. Because you can never be knowledgeable about every talking point they're going to bring up. Like some pogrom that happened in the year 1000 that is supposedly due to Jewish nefarious activity. Even if you have no knowledge of this one event, the main points still apply. Like, okay, how does that, how do you hold Jews collectively responsible for that? Because look, I got a list here of 100 horrible things white people did, and it would be immoral to hold them all collectively responsible for that as well. And then, like, what are your sources for this? What's the evidence? Like, how do you even know this happened, etc., etc.? All those type of comebacks. But I I enjoyed it. Ultimately, it takes time. I want other people to do it. I want other people to know about these arguments. I want the general public to know. Um, because then you know they're out there. You know how to negate them. You know how to argue against them. I think debating is one useful tool, as well as not allowing people to be indoctrinated in the first place on the internet. Um, Probably the most hardcore, maybe the most hardcore anti-Semite in America right now. The GDL guy, Handsome Truth, John Mineo, whatever. He has people in his town protesting outside of his house. Apparently he's gotten threats, this type of thing. Like, I do think there is value in backlash. Like, in a healthy society, if you're advocating for something that people think is toxic and harmful and horrible, there should be a backlash. Because if there wasn't a backlash for stuff, just imagine how toxic people would behave, right? Like, well, I guess we're not talking about illegal activity, but if I act inappropriately at a party towards some guy's wife or to some guy's daughter, like, there should be repercussions for that. Because if you accept something and don't speak out against it, there isn't some type of social sanction. That'll just happen in the future. So of course there should be some type of negativity associated with a guy advocating for the harassment and expulsion of a community. Of course there should be. It's totally understandable. It's totally understandable why you would want to threaten a guy. But one, it's illegal. Two, it's most probably counterproductive, because then he can use that to say, like, oh, see, I'm being attacked. So ultimately, I think the best thing to do is reach out to somebody like that, like an individual, somebody from the Jewish community. Talk to the guy, try to establish some type of relationship that could change him for the better. Even get his cooperation, like hire him to speak out against these ideologies, because he's getting paid from his community. So you could argue, like, oh, you're bribing a guy to say things he doesn't believe. Well, maybe he's saying things he doesn't believe to his fans to get money. So is that really any more pure than trying to do the same thing for your side? But I'm just saying, these hardline strategies, they work in some cases, but they can backfire, is what I'm saying. So I think establishing personal connections with somebody who's toxic to try to talk them out of their ideas, I think that's probably the best strategy. It's better than having debates. It's better than banning people. It's better than, banning people's accounts, etc., etc. Like, all this stuff matters in the aggregate, I think. But the ultimate is one-on-one engagement or talking directly with these people to try to reach them. Now, that takes time and effort. I understand that. Opportunity cost, all that. But if something is worth doing, it's worth doing, even if it takes 10 hours instead of 1, whatever the other option is, if it's a better option. So these are my thoughts. I'm trying to think if I have any other insights I want to say. I think I'm doing one more debate, and then this shit's a waste of time. Like, it's not a waste of time, but it takes a lot of time, opportunity cost, blah, blah, blah. That's why I want other people to do it. That's why I want there to be resources for people that know about it and then want to do it. People that would be better than me. I'm sure there's definitely people out there. They just have to want to do it and put some time into it. I'm sure I have other things to say, but can't think of anything right now. So anyone has any questions, just post it in the chat. All right? Everyone have a good day.